potential privacy issue of storing everyone's data in some foreign data center. But my presentation was more about it is currently happening. So we need to understand it is happening, and we need to do something about it. Because it's true, internet is less and less, there are 50,000 networks connected than 4 or 5 big networks. Do you know that when you share a picture with a friend on Facebook, it probably goes 95% of its route through a single network, or Akamai friend here, or because people pool their own fiber and have their own huge networks that are competitors to internet, kind of, and then they interconnect with local ISPs at different locations. So I think it is happening, and changing that will not happen by chance, but by real planning and real will and real local content, to go with the second comment. Without local content, it's really hard to compete.
Yeah, so how is it they say, do not feed the troll? I think that was a fair point, Nisha. Yeah, for sure, my presentation was about infrastructure, because that's what I do. I think there was a startup last week or a couple of weeks that raised $1.2 million US in Nigeria, hotels.ng, because they actually shot a video on YouTube and in the Google offices in Lagos, and basically that allowed them to build their business case and then finally get some funding for a local hotel reservation platform. So yeah, for sure, having content, having businesses online, that's of the essence, and that's the heart of what Google does also. I mean, it's connecting people with information. I mean, it's nice to connect people with people, but once you're done with your holiday pictures, there's not much to do if you don't have businesses. So yeah, fully agreed there. Thanks for raising that point.
Mishuki, you want to? No, it's okay. Bashar.
Je m'appelle Abdul Bashar. I'm Abdul Bashar. I'd like to thank you very much for this initiative to bring ITF in Africa. It's very good news. We would like that ITF does more campaigns because in Africa there are many universities who are not aware of ITF work as such, because ITF is part of the ecosystem of the internet, because all that is technical is managed by ETAC protocol, etc. So African should participate, but before that we need campaigns. We need to inform people about what is ITF. We are consumer and we would like to participate, so we would like you to do more marketing, more information campaign, so that people participate more and understand more about it. Thank you.
You get what's mean.
I think I got part of it. My French is really bad. But I think that the whole question was about universities don't have an idea how to get involved within the ITF.
It's a bit of many people, many countries in Africa don't have a clue of what's happening in ITF. So maybe ITF should start by making kind of adverts in the different countries. Try to so what is the plan that you have on there on this spot here?
So the approach we are hoping to use is to use the community, and the community being you, to go back and identify those with the technical competence or technical background to get involved in the ITF. If you are able to help us identify those communities, then we can target the communications to them, because the ITF is not for everyone. It was for a specific group of highly technical people or engineers, and we've shown the list of people who attend the ITF. So if you can identify the community and let us know, then we can target our communications to them so that they get to have the right information, and we can create their awareness to the right target audience. So that is the hope, and that is the message we are trying to reach out to this community, so that they can help us. Once they go back to their homes, they can share with us the access or the channels to those respective communities, because we may not be able to reach each one of them directly, but you can, because you're already plugged in to that community. I hope that answers.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we can take one more question because we had the new. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
We had just 10 minutes, but let's say 5 minutes left before to close the session. So yes, and then we'll bring the last one. Okay, Amrish, please.
Okay, Amrish from AFRINIC. I've been to a couple of ITF meetings, and what I've seen actually is that people who are there are actually dedicated to working on ITF working groups. So my question is maybe to the community, is the African community ready to actually dedicate resources, private companies dedicate resources to sustain the work at ITF? So maybe we need to ask the question to all of the industry here in Africa. And my second comment is that, for example, in the LAC region, there is an initiative, I think, the ITF LAC, where they will concentrate on, the Spanish side of things. Here in Africa, we have multiple languages. So how about having a task force that will also concentrate on the French part of Africa, as well as on the English part? Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. This is Alain again. So it's just to add a comment, not a question. So Africa is a bit known at ITF. So we have been there and we made friends. We even have some African parties at the ITF. People remember in 2007, we have Professor Ni awardee at John Postel Award. In 2012, we have Pierre Ouedraogo. So it gave us opportunity to have our African parties at ITF. So it's not so bad. So we are known there, but we just need to build on and keep going. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to close the session, this section. So I would like to thank the panelists for their great presentations. And I also as well want to thank the participants for their question and the comments. So we can now go to the coffee break, yes, and come back at 4 for the last session. So thank you guys for this.
Good afternoon, everybody. So welcome back. I'm Ines Kshish from Tunisia, from Izet Shargeya. I'm sorry I'm not that fluent with English, but I'm pleased to present you the last session for today. So we're going to start with Mr. Neria Susu from AFRINIC, who is going to tell us about the AFRINIC Internet Routing Registry. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neria Sosu with the AFRINIC team, and I'd like to take a few minutes of your time to talk to you about the AFRINIC routing registry and the benefits of using it. No, not the point. Okay, sorry about that. So the benefits of using the routing registry, the challenges, and the way forward. Okay, so at AIS'15, we released a beta version of the AFRINIC routing registry. Up until then, we used to ask our members to use RAP-NCC route registry route registries. And over the years, we've noticed that there are 33,000 route objects of AFRINIC managed blocks in the route registries. In 2014, in August 2014, we deployed a new instance of that route registry, of AFRINIC route registry, which we bundle with the AIS 2.0. Subsequently, we organized a few boot camps to assist our members who have their objects in RIPE registry to seamlessly migrate them to AFRINIC registry. Some of the benefits that you reap from using AFRINIC routing registry, obviously, it's free. It's a service that we offer our members. Ease of maintenance, because it's tightly linked to the AIS. All your objects are maintained by maintainers that you already have in the AIS, thus reducing the risk of hijacking. The current status of the registry: we are currently mirrored by RAP-NCC, it's a daily dump, by APNIC, RADB, they do NRTM, near real-time mirroring, and we develop a migration interface to help our members easily migrate their objects from RIPE to AFRINIC. Challenges that we faced and continually seeing, and certain things that we've done to mitigate them. Our main concern has been low updates in our region. So far, only nearly 400 route objects and 17 route 6 objects are in the AFRINIC database. Very, very few members have transferred their objects to us. In addition, the need of referencing resources from other administered zone it has become very clear. We have some members that have either prefixes assigned from different registries or ASN that cannot use our routing registry at the moment. Moreover, an idea arose in the RIPE region recently to attempt achieving a better use of APSL and protecting from abuse and hijacking. They call that project IRR Lockdown, which in a gist is basically not honoring route objects that come from other zone, but the one that should administer the prefix. What it means for us is that all the 30,000 objects that we have in RIPE NCC database will just simply be ignored by filters that upstream providers have. So to address that challenge, the AFRINIC team has been taking a few measures. We decided to launch a new project that we call the AFRINIC version 2.0. And what we did is to start getting ready for a new approach on our routing registry. We completed all the work. We are currently doing internal testing. We intend on releasing a beta testing version by end of July and going in prod by end of August. We also have been engaged with RIPE NCC folks in a project named IRR Homing Project. And basically the idea is to look at a way of bulk migrating all the route objects in a seamless manner from RIPE NCC to AFRINIC routing registry. So how would the new registry work? 4-case scenario. First one, prefix and authnom are both administered by AFRINIC. Simple case, straight shot. Both are protected by the same maintainer. We do an authentication on the maintainer, which passes, the object is created. Second case, both prefixes are administered by AFRINIC, but are protected by different maintainer, either because they belong to different organizations or the same organization, but they are just two maintainers. In that case, we authenticate the first maintainer, then we queue the request and send a notification to the owner of the second maintainer, which gets authenticated before we approve the creation of the object. Second case scenario, the prefix is administered by AFRINIC, but the authnom comes from a different region, right? APNIC, LACNIC, or RADB. In such cases, we will capture the request, open up a ticket to hostmaster, and let hostmaster do some due diligence. They will contact the requester, obtain information about the peer, contact the peer, and only when the peer authorizes the creation of the object, then the creation is made in our database. Prefix in our region, authnom, or prefix out of our region, authnom in our region, pretty much the same case scenario. Hostmaster once again has to do some due diligence work before the object gets approved. And last case scenario, both are not in our region. Currently, we are not supporting objects in such case, and the creation will just be denied. So here is the new architecture that we are going to release. As you can see, We have two instances of the WHOIS database. We have a stealth instance and a public instance. All the updates are done in the stealth instance via AutoDBM, Web Update, or MyAfrinic, and only queries go to the public instance. We also have an instance which we call a routing registry instance, which mirrors object from our WHOIS public instance, as well as RIPE, AFRINIC, and ARIDB. So that enables us to maintain an up-to-date registry and help with the adoption of the registry. In the same time, we get mirrored, our public instance gets mirrored by the same folks, in addition with EntityCom, RIPE, AFRINIC, and ARIDB. So, here is our call to the community. We need a better adoption in our region. We need to see more objects created in our registry, and we need to get all our members to encourage the upstream providers to make use of our routing registry. There is also a cross-registry authentication activity that is being done currently. I participated in the both at AIS'15 on that subject, and several options are under investigation, among which the use of RPKI or AirDAP. But there is no clear direction that has been identified yet. So for the time being, we will have Hostmaster apply some due diligence on the creation of objects when the maintainer or when the authnom or the prefix are from a different region, until a clear direction is identified by the various stakeholders. We also would like to hear from you about the IRR homing projects. Would you support a bulk migration of your objects, or would you prefer to be in control of that migration? So those are the various points that I wanted to share with you today, and make sure to hear from the community as far as the direction that we should take with our routing registry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Neria, for your brief presentation. So if you have any questions, just write them down. We will come back to them after the next presentation. Now we are going to switch to Mrs. Toeda Nirenda from NIPAD from South Africa. She's going to tell us about transboundary issues in cyber security. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay, got to make sure the technology is working first. Let's see here. Okay. So this is really just a very brief overview and just talking about transboundary issues in cybersecurity. And I promise you the only technical term in my presentation is cybersecurity, nothing else. Everything else is plain English. And the idea really is just for us to maybe think through a little bit in terms of some of the things that are emerging, some of the things that we already know to some degree. But really, from our perspective, is to begin to have this conversation around the fact that cybersecurity, much as we are doing things on a national level, we need to begin to think about what needs to be done at a regional level, at a continental level, because the issues are getting to a point where they need to be dealt with just beyond the national level. So the idea is just to share with you a few things that are happening, but to also just begin this conversation in terms of taking stock of where we are, and then beginning to see what is it that we need to do as far as dealing with cybersecurity issues. So the imperatives in terms of cybersecurity, I think we all know them: the Internet of Things, many more users coming online, many more devices coming online, lots of opportunities, but that also presents its own challenges and issues as well. The geographical reach of the Internet, which is almost boundless, the fact that we have the freedom to innovate, and innovation can be good and it can also be harmful. And then we also have low levels of consumer awareness, especially in our continent. People are still not very savvy when it comes to things like how to deal with spam and how to deal with phishing attacks and things like that. And so we still need to begin to think through how do we actually get that messaging across, that yes, the internet is a good thing, technology is a good thing, but we also need to be very careful in terms of how we actually engage with it. And then the issue of surveillance, which does not need me to say anything about. So in terms of cybersecurity and human rights, I think that the tension is always one of, yes, you want to give people access to technology and you want people to have unrestricted access to the internet, and then you have to balance that in terms of what are people's freedoms as far as their freedom of expression, what about people's rights to privacy, the right to information, and then the right to development as well. And so you find that there's always that tension again in terms of saying you want to give people access, you want that access to be secure, much as you can secure it, but you also want to make sure that you're preserving people's rights as well. So the African Declaration on Internet Rights and Freedoms, which was introduced in 2014 at the Global IGF, it basically seeks to get a common understanding in terms of human rights and openness as far as policy making is concerned in Africa. And the idea is just to begin to think through what are the key principles that should underpin internet rights and freedoms, what are the requirements that are needed to effectively realize the principles, and then what is it that the different stakeholder groupings need to actually do in terms of upholding those principles and making sure that people actually do have the necessary rights and freedoms. So there is a draft, there's a text that's available on that website, on that URL, and it is open for comments and also open for endorsement as well. And I think that this is something that people need to look at and begin to see, look at the principles, look at the call to action, and then begin to see how that translates for us in our individual countries, at a regional level, and then at a continental level as well, in terms of how we move forward as far as policy making is concerned. Cybersecurity and international law, this is just also introduce something that maybe some might be aware of and some maybe not, but obviously the fact that we had a resolution in 2013 that talked very specifically about the right that people have to privacy in the digital age, and the fact that one's rights apply online in much the same way as they do offline. And so the key message here is that when we have our national legislation, that legislation has to also comply with the international human rights laws. And so it is upon us to make sure that as we develop legislation or as we monitor legislation, that we are ensuring that it is consistent with international rights and laws. And then there was also something that was done that was looking at, the issue of necessary and proportionate measures, which also might be of interest in terms of looking at the principles on, when you're actually applying human rights to communication surveillance, what are the limits, what are the boundaries, what defines necessary and what can be considered proportionate measures. Peace and security, I put a question mark there because oftentimes we talk about cybersecurity and we don't often think about it in terms of peace and security, but it is really a peace and security issue. And the African Union, as you all know, is very much focused on peace and security, but perhaps maybe at this point in time we tend to think more of the physical security and then protecting our borders and things like that. But we also need to begin to think now in terms of cyberspace and how the wars that we're fighting in the physical realm are actually going to translate into wars that we fight in the virtual and in cyberspace. You have cyber terrorism, you have cyber warfare. If you want to actually attack a country now and bring it to its knees, you know, your best bet is to go and find and attack its internet infrastructure and bring that to its knees, and you see how countries will actually react to that. So issues of national security and classified information, issues of organized crime, and then the actual physical security of our various infrastructure. Those are things that we need to begin to think about from a peace and security perspective as well. Cybersecurity in Africa is just to show the kinds of cyber incidents that we have. I'm sure that all of us at one time or another have fallen prey or victim to one or the other of these. But I think the main thing here is to really bring home the message that a lot of times consumers, as we bring consumers online, they really do not have the awareness of what to do when confronted with some of these attacks. Some people still don't recognize phishing for what it is. And that presents serious problems in terms of when you now start having more and more people coming online who are not aware, who are very trusting and cannot make that distinction between what is legitimate and what is actually intended to violate their privacy or to actually conduct fraudulent transactions. So there really is a need for a concerted effort in terms of raising that level of awareness, not for consumers as far as electronic transactions is concerned, but even for our children as well. I mean, a lot of us have young children who are using gadgets, getting online, and they also cannot make that distinction between what is good content and what is not good content, what links they can actually click on and which links they should not be able to click on. And so it really is a responsibility that we have to actually educate, inform, and make sure that we are raising those awareness levels. This is a graphic that's depicting the situation that we currently have with certs, and I will apologize if this is not the current state of affairs, but last I checked, this is what it was. And I really would like to come back in 2 years' time and make this presentation, and the picture must be flipped. Currently, we only have about 20% of countries that have certs either established or certs in formation. I think that that's the cybersecurity. They might be localized, but they have impacts and repercussions that affect everybody else. And so if we don't have the appropriate levels of responses in our different countries, then our cybersecurity and the level of cybersecurity will only be as strong as the weakest link. And so we really need to make sure that we are actually working towards flipping this around and getting more and more people involved in terms of improving the situation as far as cyber response is concerned. This just basically shows the status of cybercrime legislation. This is taken from the UNCTAD's Information Economy report, and again just brings home the point that there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of legislation as far as cybercrime is concerned on the continent. The last part of my presentation is just speaking very broadly to the AU Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, which was endorsed by the African Union Heads of States last year. And the idea really is to create a framework that allows us to harmonize legislation and to put in place data protection measures and promote cybersecurity, and then to also fight against cybercrime. And I will not go through that because I just said that. And so when you look at the convention, it is structured in 4 main parts. The first part is looking at electronic commerce and just looking at some of the definitions and terms around that. And then the protection of personal data. And then the third part looks at the issues of combating cybercrime. And the last part is just common and final provisions that are very specific to the convention itself, and in terms of some of the things that are done at the level of the African Union. So in terms of implementation, three main areas that one can identify. Awareness and capacity building, very important in terms of raising consumer awareness, but also capacity building at very many different levels, at the level of our policymakers, law enforcement, the judiciary, parliament, etc., etc. Everybody needs to kind of come to some common level of understanding about cybersecurity, cybercrime, and personal data protection. And then the second part of it is the enabling framework, which is looking at the whole process of ratifying the convention. Currently, as it is, much as it has been endorsed, the convention is not in force. It will only come into force when it has been ratified by at least 50 member states. So that is an ongoing process, which will take, I don't know how long it will take, but obviously these are things that have to be done at a national level, that have to go through parliament and so on and so forth, before a country can actually ratify the convention. So those are things that also provide opportunities to actually interrogate the convention and flag those areas where maybe it needs strengthening, or maybe areas where there might be a need for revisiting some of the provisions in the convention. But those can be done through those national discussions, and then with the ratification, one can always present the reservations that actually a country has. And then the enabling framework also requires national legislation in terms of enacting some of the provisions in the convention. The last part of implementation is the response and recovery, and this goes back again to the issue of our certs and our certs, and being able to actually have adequate measures in place to respond to cyber incidents when they occur. So I think in conclusion, it's really just trying to drive home the message that governments alone are not going to be able to do this, that it does need a concerted effort of all the different stakeholders working together in terms of looking at the different elements and different aspects of cybersecurity, and making sure that there is that harmonized approach in terms of the different policies that are required, in terms of capacity building, in terms of the implementation, in terms of the monitoring and response. And it's really just for me to bring home that message that says that, you know, these are issues that are moving beyond our national borders, and we need to begin to think through how we're actually going to implement them on a national, regional, and continental level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rialto. So we're ready to get your questions. Please feel free and just please move to any mic. Thank you. No questions? Okay, so we're going to switch to the open mic. So do you have any things to say about the AFNOG days or the AFNOG event? Was it interesting for you?
Okay, thank you very much, Ines, and thank you to the panelists. I'd like to invite Badru to come and lead us in the open mic session. Basically, the open mic session, but Badru will explain more about it, but basically we'll give you the opportunity to give us feedback on, you know, the direction that the community wants AFNOG to go. We're here to listen to you, to get your input. As was stressed earlier this morning, this is a community-based initiative, so we encourage each one of you to be part of, to participate fully in the community. So the mics are here. Badru will lead the discussion. Thank you, Badru. Come.
Thank you, Aisato. Well, basically this is a time where we invite you all to come and give us some feedback on what we need to do, how we move forward. Earlier I had some good feedback, I think, from Mary when you said about what we can do moving forward with ITF. Maybe you can come and give us a little bit. You can start off by giving us some feedback. Yes. I have an option whether to wait for my mic or to stimulate it. Mary, please lead us on the feedback. But also introduce yourself, and also, since you've been with us, I think, for the last 2 weeks as well. Last week, yeah? Can we open the mic, please? Can we open the mic, please?
Okay. Thank you. I'm taking on the spot. And first, I want to say that it's been an eventful week, and the fact that we are given this opportunity at the continent level to be able to be together, but to look at the areas that will be of interest to the AF stars. And I participated in the AROC, and we had a good turnout from countries in Africa, and it was a good learning process. And I want to encourage that continues. And I had the opportunity to be on the online local content development. I think that's what it's called, online local. And I was really impressed by what was done there, and it's an encouragement for us to get back, see how we can organize ourselves at our local level, at our national level, to be able to bring in local content, especially the language. The language as local content will help grow the sector, grow the industry. The program was so simple, and the lecturer, the facilitator, did a good job for us, and had wanted to continue yesterday. I'm not a techie person, and it gave me opportunity to tell the techie ones that this is actually what we want in the continent, and we're taking it on from there. And I hope that we'll go back with all that we have learned there. Then, as I said, I want to see research track. There should be a research track where the researchers will come together, those that have started, those that are developing, those that are thinking of, and those that have accomplished. So they could also rub mind on ICT development, or the technical development, even the commercial development. I also want to see what the issue that Pierre raised. Most times it will only be the techie thing. We can see that it's gone beyond techie to business. So since we are seeing business developing in this sector, so that the business people can also have a track, they could also come talk about business in the techie. And I think we also have people in the legal services, like the intellectual property. Some of us will develop copyright. What happens? How are they protected? So such people should also, maybe there will be a track for them, could just be a day or two, that they will talk about how intellectual property in the continent will be developed, and where creative artists will be given the right to their creation, and they'll be protected. But on the whole, today has been very, very productive for me. Very, very productive. And I believe that what happened today would also strengthen us to go back to our communities, to be able to continue from where we stopped. It shouldn't just be here. We shouldn't just come for a holiday. We shouldn't just come for meeting people you have not met for the year and we go back. Can we do same? Can we take it back to our communities? Can we do same in our nation, in our countries? I think those are critical issues that I'm taking back with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I knew I chose the right person to start us off. Thank you so much. I see Mukom on the mic.
My name is Mukom. I wear no hats. This is my first AFDOG meeting, by the way, ever.
Welcome.
So one of the things I would like to ask is, I think a lot has been said about the ability of Africans to start things and grow them to really successful things at large levels. And I think key to this is systematic feedback and improvement. So what I would like to ask is, how exactly, what are the measures that AFRINIC uses to judge its success? Is that, can we find information about that somewhere? I mean, it's all right, we have, anecdotal information about, not springing out there, but I think if we have that information on the website and really detailed metrics on, these are the metrics by which we are measuring that we are succeeding from year to year, and people can see that that will really strengthen us as a community. And this again goes to the comment that the CEO of ISOC made in the morning, that Africans need to develop the African internet. And I think that from the perspective of AFRINIC, one of the key metrics we can use to judge how well we are doing in terms of self-sustainability, which also goes to what Pierre Daniel said, is what's the percentage of African trainers delivering these trainings from the beginning versus those who come from abroad, from the US. Please understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we don't want to see people from Europe or from the US coming. I'm just saying after 10 years of doing AFRINIC, we don't want people coming from Europe to come and tell us how to do basic Linux. There should be at least a certain percentage of this thing being done, and people who come from abroad should come with advanced knowledge, and their role should be to mentor our own local people so that we can take this on board. In that line again, it would be good to see things like evaluations of past events. If you've got that on the website, that I believe those are the small things, transparency, we talk about openness, that strengthen this community. So I would just like to, if there's some information that I might not know, it'd be good to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukom. Thank you. Anybody else coming to try and give us some feedback? I like what I've had so far. We've had about research, the localization work that was done, and I think this is remind me if this is the second year that we've done the localization workshop. We've had, I think Mary's talking about replication. Legal, I remember, I think last year we had somebody coming to talk about legal, but I think we need to build that up in terms of our intellectual property. Yeah, and I like what Mukom is actually saying in terms of feedback and accountability and how we measure that. Let's continue. I see two more people.
Abiade Dosumo is my name, and I work for AFRINIC. I just wanted to add this. AFNOG educates people about the internet, but not everyone knows how they can actually make a business out of the internet. So I'm thinking if AFNOG can kind of add business models to their courses, besides teaching people about the internet, how can they also educate them on how they can create businesses out of it? There are so many business models out there that you can use for businesses. So, I mean, that's something very good AFNOG can add to that. Yeah.
Yes. Joe.
Hi, it's Joe Abley here from NSRC, I guess. I just wanted to say that on the question of foreign instructors coming in and teaching at workshops, I think there are less of those today than there were in the past. I think it continues to get better, and I just wanted to point out two things. One of them is that the instructors that we do have and who taught this year, for example, who are from Africa, fabulous instructors, and they did a fantastic job, and I think everybody should, be very, very happy that they found the time to be able to teach, because they are excellent instructors anywhere, never mind specifically for here. And the other thing is, for any student, especially students who have had experience with multiple tracks, and perhaps they've done networking one year, and perhaps they've done scalable services another year, any of those people should feel free to put their hand up and say, I would like one day to be an instructor. I would like to be able to teach a course in some of these places, because if you don't ask, it won't happen. So, I think everybody should be aware that there's lots of opportunity there for people to join the community as instructors that they first experienced as students.
Thank you, Joe. In fact, just to add on to what Joe has actually said, is most of our instructors started off as students, but they've actually developed and evolved, and we actually find it hard to get into their time these days because they're quite busy. Anybody else with someone else? Yes, Mukom? Okay.
Okay, I've got a suggestion to fix that.
Thank you.
My name is Mukom Tamon. I've got a suggestion to fix the instructor thing. Let's have a page on the AFRINIC website that says, these are the requirements you need to become an instructor, fill this form, and this is how we'll evaluate you. So that there's a pool of instructors, and if there's a process to check on their availability every time. Look, for 10 years, I am very sure, based on the people I've met who have attended this training, the countries I go to, that sure, some people would, after a certain number of years, just become busy and become unavailable. But if you have a process, we should pool, AFNOC should pool, this is how, if you want to become it, this is a clear, open process. Not, I go whisper in someone's ear, and it should be open. So I think a page on the website saying, call for instructors, and very clear. We are not saying we'll use you next year, or even in 2 years' time. But these are the requirements to become an instructor, and this is the process to become one, and this is how you'll be evaluated. I think that will really help a lot with strengthening the institution.
Thank you. Yovi, I will ask, I see Nishal in the back. I think I will ask you to come and give us an idea of your criteria for an instructor. Please, after Yovi. Maybe he's the one at the back.
Hi, my name is Nishal. I'm one of the AFNOG instructors, and like all of you, I am quite surprised as to why I am at the microphone. This is actually something you probably want from one of the AFNOG track leaders to answer. But really, the process to become a the process to become an instructor is really simple. You don't have to go through the AFNOG school per se. I've never been through the AFNOG school. I got invited because I ran a network a long time ago, and apparently I could talk about BGP and help students understand things. And every year, for my sins, Alan Barrett keeps inviting me back. So if you're interested, that's a good thing, right? You've got to be interested in wanting to make a change, in wanting to do something positive for the environment. The instructor process is a volunteer process. It takes a lot out of you. You've got to be able to work, to teach obviously a class 8 to 5, and then, well, spend the night remaking slides and fixing errors from last year's slides that you never got around to doing, and then be awake the next morning to be teaching again, especially if you're in the BGP class when you only get to sleep at 2 a.m. So to all the SIE students here, again, great job, guys. I have to say that to you. And of course, you have to be pretty good at what you do, or hopefully know what you're talking about. But I think more than any of that, I always say you can teach technical skills to people. It's not a difficult thing to learn BGP or DNS or DNSSEC or any of the other cool things that they talk about these days. You've got to want to do good. You've got to want to be here. And without that want, you're probably not going to get there. There's a wave, or I should say there's a generation of instructors, like, the very old ones like Joe Abley, who is at the microphone now. And the not so old ones like myself, that are all quite tired of this. Not because we're tired of teaching, let me be clear, but because we want to see the younger guys come up. So at least in the classes I teach, we have mini mentorship programs where we've been taking students. I don't see her in the room, but we've had a student that we've had with us in previous class who sat with us this year. She was part of the part of the setup team, and part of the instructor team. So if you're interested in being involved in this process, if you think you have value to add, grab a hold of one of your instructors. If you can't find your instructor, grab a hold of Joe or myself, and we can walk you through the process. I'm not going to take up too much more time, the mic explaining that. Thanks.
Thank you, Nishal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What Nishal said is very encouraging, and I think we should find a way to have more people informed, because I think during the next AFNOG meeting, what we should be expecting is not only a few country names where we have national workshops. So when this training started, people have to travel from Africa to INET meeting. So before the meeting, we have technical workshop, and now today is very good to see that we have instructor, very qualified people from Africa, teaching in the classes. And I'm sure that we'll still need people coming from outside because we are having many more specialized tracks. So, but my comment is that at national level, we should find a way not to have people, and I'm sure it is possible to have people at national level to at least organize some basic classes. So I don't think that today we need again somebody to travel from a country, maybe to share experience. So my point is we need to find a way to spread the message so that during the next AFNOG meeting we have more countries where at least we have track zero, because now after many years we have countries where this one is not organized, and find a way how we can associate more network operators. Because it's very important. We go to some countries, we see some people, they don't know about what AFNOG is doing. So we need to spread the message, and I'm sure some people also, organizations that help to do translation so that Francophone countries, we can have more workshops in these countries. So I think AFNOG is doing well. We have to encourage you so that in the next meeting, we have more good news. Thank you.
Okay. So Yovi, before you leave, if I'm hearing you right, we're talking about localization, more entry-level trainings at the local level.
Yeah, my point is this: localization should be. We should have more localization. We are having few countries, and my point also, we should have local people doing that. Local people doing that, and we can find people
within their countries.
Exactly.
Yes, and I think that's what.
With the support for eventually.
The local NOGS process covers that, and what we try to do is encourage more of our participants to go back home and open local NOGS.
Exactly.
So thank you, and we'll continue that. Paulos, then this one.
Okay, Paulos Nyirenda, I'm from Malawi. I think that the contributions from Nishar and Iovi are very good, but I would like to fill in the need for a forum where instructors could meet or discuss issues about instructors, especially now that AIS is bringing quite a number of AF stars under one training week. I think that coordination of instructors is something that has been missing. So in addition to growing the instructors on the continent, there is need for a forum where instructors could meet, and there were suggestions from AFTLD on how to do this. I think that forum is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulos. Again, Paulos, just for a bit of clarification, when you say a forum, are we talking about a meeting, an event, or an online virtual forum? Just a quick clarification on that one.
Any of those.
Any of those.
Yeah, but we did propose a mailing list for instructors. When we proposed this, there was a response that there is something called AfriGeek. I know I'm a geek, but I'm really not a geek as such. So I think that there is need for a forum The forum may be supported in many ways. A mailing list is one of them.
Okay. Thank you.
A regular meeting at AIS is another one of them. And I'm emphasizing here that AIS now brings a number of AF stars under one umbrella, and this needs to be this forum needs to be well coordinated.
Okay, so maybe adding a session for instructors in the plenary meeting.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'll take, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fahad Bataina. I work for ICANN. I actually cover the Middle East region. And the Middle East is really not much different than Africa, so we face the same problems you folks face here in Africa. I wanted to bring to your attention, and I actually mentioned this yesterday during the ICANN Day, but I don't think everybody was here. We have a DNS Entrepreneurship Center that just got inaugurated in Cairo, in Egypt, in July of 2014. And the center actually is focusing mostly on the DNS industry. And there are two main tracks in this center. One is a business track and the other is a technical track. Now, in terms of the technical, of course, one of the things we envision to see in the center is that we want to build local capacities. And mind you, the center actually covers both the Middle East and Africa. And in fact, we are working with Pierre, Yaovi, and Bob on actually bringing participants from Africa to attend the various training programs in this center. One thing we did is that in late April, we trained 9 top DNS technical folks from both Africa and the Middle East to actually become trainers. 5 of them were from Africa. They were trained by experts from both ICANN and NSRC, and these people, these folks, now they are trained to become trainers. The next step is that we will be conducting a couple of DNS operations and DNSSEC workshops in Cairo. Actually, one will be happening in late June. And other than bringing in trainers who have been doing this for a long time, we will be bringing in 2 of these newly trained trainers to actually be co-trainers, and maybe after doing 1 or 2 of such training programs, they can become standalone trainers where they can do this training themselves. So people in the room might want to keep this in mind. If you are interested in DNS operations and DNSSEC and you'd like to become a trainer, please contact me, please contact my colleagues at the Africa team. Now, another point I wanted to bring out here is that you might want to replicate this entrepreneurship center to cover other technical aspects of the internet, whether IPv6 competence, expertise, whether, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff that I'm really not well versed at. So I just wanted to mention these 2 points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we considering collaboration with AIS at the next meeting so that we have some of your sessions there? Maybe we can talk about that.
Well, you can coordinate with Pierre and his team, and they'll definitely try to accommodate something.
Okay, thank you for the input. Next, back please.
Thank you. My name is Bernadette John. I come from Senegal. Excusez-moi, je vais m'exprimer.
Excuse me, I'd like to switch to French, sorry. Could you please put your headset on? I'm going to switch to French. It's my second participation at the AIS, and for me it's a very enriching experience, and since last year and this year. Can you hear the interpretation, please? Can you hear the English interpretation, please? Can you hear me? So I said that it's my second participation. IS. Last year I was in Djibouti. This year in Tunis. For me, it's an extremely enriching experience. I learned a lot, and today I use where I'm working at Senegalese University. And of course, I use all this in my daily work. I have a remark concerning these events. I noticed that they are not well known at the level of our country. I notice from the number of participants here that the participants from Senegal are only a few, and I noticed that many participants come from other country, and I don't see many representatives from my own country. I think there is a problem of coordination, or is it because Senegal is not interested in this important event? I would also like to speak about the access to internet. We spoke a lot about developing access to internet in Africa, increase all that is African information in the internet. In my view, everybody shall have this possibility, but access to the internet is extremely expensive in our country, because many people have to go to cyber cafes in order to access the internet. And as far as I'm concerned, if we want to develop this point, we need to make more effort to enlarge and broaden all the points where we can have access to the internet in Africa. The third point concerning all that is training and concerning AFRINIC, we have a problem in Africa, in Western Africa, and I don't know whether this is true in Southern Africa or Central Africa. In Western Africa, we have a problem relating to budget, and whenever we ask for funds in order to have IP addresses or have some resources on the internet, it becomes very difficult in our universities. We suffer from the lack of computer science tools, and every time we speak about problem of funding, we need to have some policy in order to endow universities throughout developing the internet. Thank you. I am Abdul Jalil. I'm Abdul Jalil from Chad. I would like to thank you very much for the organization of this important event of AFNOG. It's for the first time that I participate in this event. Today I learned a lot. What I would like to make in terms of comment, AFNOG is not well known in some African countries. In Chad, people have no idea about AFNOG as such. If I think it's thanks to collaboration that we managed to organize some events. This year we are going to organize some workshops with AFNOG. What I would like to know is that AFNOG shall be more visible, more present in Africa in terms of IF. So when of course when people speak about AFRINIC, I know it, but many other people don't know it. I think it's very important to think about a training calendar. What is very important is knowledge transfer and competences transfer. There is some regional division in Africa. For example, there is the Semak region in Central Africa. So it's very important to have a training calendar for each region in Africa. And you know, French-speaking African countries shall also participate with the Francophonie. You need to see how you can make some negotiation with the Francophonie. I noticed that more participants are English-speaking or come from English-speaking country. I mean, they are Anglophone. So we would like to develop more and more some activities for the French-speaking communities. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Oui, bonjour, Boubacar Bari.
Boubacar Bari. And just to make a comment with regard to the Senegalese participant regarding IP resources, I think these resources are very important. Universities, research centers must do whatever is necessary so that they can have they have their own IP resources. And maybe she is not aware, but important measures have been taken with regard to education and research institutions. All of these institutions have a 50% discount. So where the regular user pays whatever is necessary, higher education and research centers pay 50%. So this is a very important measure, and it's important then for our institution to have their own IP resources. Now, with regard to the cost of connections, what we need is that higher education and education institution in general must group in national networks of education and research, and that way they will have high broadband. They have broadband, and they have the possibility to negotiate with the operation. So our institution must group to create and runs. They should start to do that, because it's a very efficient way to put together the resources and to have competitive prices. Thank you.
Yes, Nishal.
Hello, my name is Nishal, and for this meeting I seem to be a professional troublemaker.
Thank you.
Taking the role from Alain, who was around here somewhere. I have a comment about the agenda. It's not actually a question, and it's not really directed to AFNOG or AFNOG admin, but more to the audience, and I guess to the people that are listening in, and potentially to AFNOG 2016, 2017, and whomever else. I got a copy of the agenda today, and at first I didn't think this was AFNOG. I got to be honest. I've been coming to AFNOG for longer than I remember. I don't want to give away my age, but I was there in Cape Town. I tripped windsurf. That was my claim to fame. And I was disappointed, to be honest, to see that there's a lot of talk on the agenda, and there's lots of talk about things that people are doing, but there's nothing that I want to see at AFNOG. Where's the cool experiments that universities are doing? Where's the next hot thing that's happening in an African university or an African internet service provider? Something that's going to make the audience sit up and go, hey, wow, this is going on in our region. Who would have thunk it? There was a long discussion at the microphone earlier on about the IETF and getting the IETF here. And that needs to happen, in two ways, as was already said. You need the IETF here, you need the protocol builders here to help inspire the next generation of African entrepreneurs, the guys that are going to build the protocols that will do interplanetary transport and take us to the next part of the century. But we also need to showcase the good technical work that African operators are doing. So I guess this is the part that goes out to the African operators. What are you doing? Because it's not in this agenda, right? Why aren't you coming up here and saying, this is cool, this is what we've done, and here we want to show it to you? And a simple, really simple example would be if you subscribe to the AFNOG mailing list. Today you'd see a mail come in from the AFNOG NOC, the guys that are setting up and running the network here. And they did something that's missing for a long time, a simple thing. How to show who's connected on the Wi-Fi. They built a template for it and they posted it on the AFNOG mailing list. It seems trivial to most of you that are buying paid-for solutions, but it's a really cool open source thing that, as I said, hadn't been done before. That's what I'd like to see at future AFNOGs. I'd like to see Africans, particularly, talking about things that we've done that are making us say, well, why? This is interesting. This is cool. And by no means that excludes the external folks. I mean, guys like Joe, he's forgotten more than I'll ever know in my life. Of course, I want them here. I want them here to inspire me to get to do better things. But I also love to hear from you, the person in the audience, or you, the person listening to this video stream, saying, hey, we may be small, we may just be in Banjul or Serakunda, a place that most of you probably don't know about, but we've got something awesome to show you. Don't hide, please. That's my call to you. Don't hide. We'd love to see you at wherever AFNOG 2016 is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishal. So, Nishal, again, if I hear you right, we need to have an innovations point on the agenda where we're looking at people new things, totally different.
No, not really. I was thinking less and less of a particular innovation point and more a showcase of what people are doing, technical work.
Something different and that other people can copy and add value to. Thank you. Thanks. I see somebody.
Moi, je vais m'exprimer en français.
I will speak in French. It's Amsen. I come from Senegal. I realize that AFNOG is not well known in the French-speaking countries, and it's so it's not well known as in the English-speaking countries. I would like to make a request. If you can sensitize our authorities on the importance of this summit, so that we'll have more French-speaking participants.
I'm hearing the theme a lot about not being known in a particular area. I think we need to see what we can do on that. But also, I think this is our second or third time in the Francophone space. We were in Djibouti last year. Where were we before that?
Yeah.
Djibouti, before Djibouti.
Togo.
Oh, we're down on the other side. Okay, but we've been to Togo. Okay, so maybe we need to spend 3 or 4 years in the Francophone space. Alain?
Okay, then, so I have to speak French because I see that you want to stay in the Francophone zone. So
I'm okay now.
Then
so
I speak
carry on.
French. Okay, so je suis un peu.
I am a bit bothered because we trained 200 students in the workshops, but when I see the room, I'm wondering, where are the people? This is an AFNOG day. Where are the people? Maybe next time we'll have seats with their ID numbers so that they will come to the conference. Thank you.
It's a very critical point. Just to follow Alain's point, can I have a show of hands, participants, please? I can see a few, but not that many. Participants, can I have a show of hands? Yeah, those are the ones that get a free ticket back next year. Others will have to pay. Next, please, Karen. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, there was a question raised earlier on about developing instructor pool for AFNOG and other group. I believe, we need to also develop pools for specific, groupings. When it comes to AFNOG, we have different speciality. Now, we should be able to create different mailing lists and create different moderators which can actually evaluate who becomes an instructor for other AFNOG tracks. It's important we do it this way. And creating a bigger pool is not a problem. Yeah, the problem about the bigger pool is how effective the discussion becomes when it's a bigger pool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any more comments? I think we've gotten really, and I'd like to thank you so much for the candid feedback that we've got. Open mic is also open for any pertinent issues that we might want to add onto the table. But if I can go through quickly, I think we've covered our whole road. We've looked at research, business input, legal services. How do we grow instructor base? I think Mukom talked about measurement. How do we start measuring and tracking our development and how what impact we've made? I think most of you, if you look at the AFRINIC logo, the AFNOG logo, it's the green bits are where we have been, so that's an impact. I know Frank is somewhere in the room. I would like to apologize on behalf of Tanzania. We kind of made it white, but we have been to Tanzania. Those of you wearing a t-shirt, Tanzania should be green, but Frank noticed that. So as we looked at about how we spread the message, yes, publicity is a thing that we need to look at. How do we get more areas knowing where we are? But also, if we feed back to why we now have AIS, is how to make this event bigger and more impactful. And it's definitely become bigger, and the impact is there. So, in summary, we've taken the feedback. We're going to put it up into a small document, and then we will share that with you. And then we will see how we continue building. As we say, this is about 16 years of doing what we do. Some of us will be here for long. I think Alain, I think we also had yesterday from Alan, been here for quite some time. And we'll continue going. So really on that note, I'd like to thank you all. I want to hand back to Aissatou and back to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Badru. Thank you to all of you. I'd like to invite Dr. Nikweno to give closing remarks. Doc, we're ready to close. Doc. Hello? Okay. On that note, I'd like to thank all of you for attending this conference. I was actually calling you. Okay, he didn't hear me properly. I thought that meant he didn't want to say anything. Okay, we'll have Doc give a few remarks. Thank you.
All right, I've been taken by surprise, but nonetheless, I'll try and say a few words. I think we've had a very vigorous 1 week, and beyond that, we went on to tutorials, and we are concluding with an exchange. I think the exchange we had has been very lively. I myself enjoyed the parts that I was able to be here, and I hope it has shown our participants the full cycle of the process, from being a participant student to being someone who is absorbing advanced tutorial knowledge, which is more specialized, and to the stage of where you are exchanging knowledge like we have just had. I sincerely hope that we will go back home, wherever they may be, and attempt to replicate the same thing within our communities. In other words, take AFNOG home, which is what we've been practicing, and that has been successful. With respect to the different, you might say, specializations, the stars that we have, they also do need to practice the same kind of thing within their communities, and I also hope that they will equally do the same. I've been particularly touched by the idea of preparing ourselves for the potential of IETF in the region, and therefore one of the best ways to prepare, as we discussed, is by practicing the same sorts of things within our different communities. And so once again, I'll ask you to try and do that, not only within the NOGs, but also within the stars. That way, then we are advancing our capability to participate better in various global forums. With that, I'd like to say a big thank you for having been patient with each other, and for having participated as vigorously as you have. And I wish you a very good rest of the week. We are moving into a new phase as well, where it gets a little bit more specialized and more active, but in a different angle. So I say thank you very much, and I wish you well. AFNOG. AFNOG. Take AFNOG home.